what's up? Welcome back to another episode of Visual Effects Artist React. Today, the masks are coming off. We're gonna break down Halloween movies.
Be warned, at some point in this video, there will be a jump scare. You are not gonna see it coming.
I got some sick monster clips to show you guys, like rad demons.
I'm bringing some very tasteful monsters to the table.
Yeah, and that's just. He told you.
Nick Cage made a monster movie. It takes place on the edge of the end of the world.
That sleeping boy is about to get poked. Whoa, hold up, go back.
See the teeth?
Oh, that's so creepy.
I will say, I think that arm effect is really eerie and really convincing. It's rendered really well and it moves really well. So there's very little about how this movie was made because it just came out like 6 months ago. I think this is all CG. And I love how they have the fire catching the fingers there. Because otherwise it's kind of like a dark shape on a dark background. But it's just a little spooky appetizer. Let's see what these guys look like for real.
The frick? I mean, it's different, that's for sure.
They're going back and forth from like CG to real, I think. It's probably CGI, but it looks real here.
At the very least, those hands are CG. There's like no contact shadow
Yeah,
there.
you're right. There's no contact shadow. What do you guys think of these creatures?
They were certainly creepier when they were more hidden. It's got kind of a silliness to it. It's got like the little lips that go, "Arr."
There's a weird thing up with the design of this creature, though. See how like you see its mouth and teeth, but then it turns its head? See, it's got like fake teeth up there?
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything practical here at all. I think we got bamboo sticks with tennis balls on it.
Go frame by frame. Let's see if we can find some curved motion blur. Yeah, there's some curved motion blur in there.
I disagree.
This is very nice motion blur. This would be the kind of
nice motion blur.
This is a practical.
No, it's called like super sampling with your frames. This is like the Dune helicopter. Okay, we're talking about the Dune ornithopters. To render out the wings on the ornithopters, they would just render out the actual like really intense like multi-sampled, super sampled frames in order to get that proper motion blur. And I could totally see in a situation like this, you could just crank those settings.
Yeah, I suppose you could, but at the same time, this is probably not a super high budget movie, and they probably had a real creature built for some of these shots, at the very least.
Well, let's go a little bit further and see some more monsters.
Oh, there's Nick Cage.
I totally forgot you said he was in this movie.
Wow, he's very cavalier with just bonking him.
And there's no motion capture for this. This is all hand animation.
CGI is done pretty well. I mean, like the rendering is good, the lighting is good, the fur looks good. The only thing that keeps like bonking me is like they're adding a lot of post camera shake.
They must be using vector blur, which is like a very simplified version of motion blur, where you render your shot without motion blur. It's fast, and then you just basically have another image that tells you through color which direction to blur the pixels and by how much. And so you end up with things like this, where the head blurs when it moves, but like when it starts chomping, just because of how it's aligned with the camera, you end up with moments like there, where there should be motion blur. The jaw just jumped pretty far. There's no motion blur there at all. And then you get a little bit of motion blur here, and then a lot of sideways motion blur there, and then a lot of vertical motion blur there. And it's all over the place because it's vector motion blur. It's not tracking the motion of the object through the entire moment of that frame. It's just capturing a snapshot of direction in time and then just blurring everything based on that one direction they were traveling in that fraction of time.
This doesn't look like this is like a motion vector pass. This is like we have a render, we're gonna actually add post motion blur to it all.
Which is actually something where it's just kind of tracking the pixels as it would be observed. There's no extra information there. It's like, all right, these pixels are now in this frame, therefore it should have motion blur that way. But the problem with that method sometimes is that if something moves too much, it won't know that those are the same pixels and it won't know to blur them.
Yeah, hey, you guys wanna see an example? Since we're editing this in DaVinci Resolve, there is a filter that does exactly what they're doing here, where you can just take your image, track it for motion, and enhance the motion blur. So here, I'm motion blurred out, but watch this. I'm gonna move my hand so fast that it's not gonna be able to track it anymore.
Oh man, is he fast enough? Is it fast enough?
Hit myself in the eye.
He just poked himself in the eye, like hard. Did you hear that? That was a full on like smack.
It's by no means bad. This is just, it's too bad they couldn't render this part with physically accurate motion blur.
But I also wonder how much of that is like an intentional direction, because having it be less motion blurred for the chomping makes it eerier. What a sweet shot though. And it freaks me out in a way that I've never quite experienced before.
Jump scare. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I just want to tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. 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 And I'm gonna do it using only jump scares. Did you know that Squarespace has design intelligence? It combines design expertise and cutting-edge AI to unlock your strongest creative potential. Design intelligence empowers anyone to build a beautiful, more personalized website and craft a bespoke digital identity to use across one's entire online presence. You know, one of the things I like most about Squarespace is the flexible website templates where you can choose from a collection of professionally designed websites that are fully customizable to fit any of your needs. Come closer. But my favorite thing about Squarespace is that they have I'm sorry guys, there was supposed to be a jump scare. An online store where you can showcase your products and easily track your sales. So if you want to build a website of your very own, head over to squarespace.com/corridorcrew for 10% off your first website or domain. Okay, all done. No more jump scares. You can go. You can watch React now. I'm not gonna do another jump scare. I'm not gonna do another.
I was browsing the web and I was like, you know what? I don't really know much about the Jason movies, but I know there's a silly one they did where they were in outer space. Let's see if it's any good.
Jason X is an insane movie. Wow, that looks great.
Oh! What?
Was that just like a morph that they did for the face in the water? That was really well done.
What the heck just happened?
Yeah, I think that's just a morph or like a frame blend.
So yeah, because you watch it and you're like, what? Wait, the heck? How the heck did you do that? Because they dip her face in there, and that's her, and then whoa.
That's a good effect right there.
It's very good.
Top left, her curl of hair. You can kind of see there's like, it's been very groomed. It's still there, it's still from her element. Transition here, whoop, to the dummy.
There's a lot of great details. So I'm watching the bubbles, and first off, they're pushing bubbles out of the dummy's nose.
Yeah, which is such a good touch.
A really good touch because the character's screaming and you're seeing bubbles coming out of her nose and mouth as she's doing it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just
In
noticed
fact, you can
the
see
mouth.
the bubbles coming out from underneath the mask. So they're coming out of her mouth here, but as they morph to the dummy's face in front of her, she's still breathing out bubbles, so now they're coming out from beneath the picture of, of the dummy's face there at the chin. And that's because it's just the actual person still exhaling bubbles right there.
Isn't that clever though? It's very simple and it's very effective.
They obviously filmed the plate of her face going into the water, and then they probably just got a separate video plate of the dummy that's frozen over, but they had to like frame that up so closely and then still have the morph go through.
I think it's motion tracked to her. The still frame of the dummy is still motion tracked to her face here. And you kind of feel like it's masked out a little bit too if you kind of look around it. It's a really well done shot.
It's really
Sam.
well done, yeah.
And then they mush it. What'd they fill that head with, do you think? Is that candy?
Yeah, it could be like red beads and candy glass or something like that. But it's like the perfect composition.
It's either two separate clips, the hair mush, and then a splatter of like red and white jelly things, or it's already there and he smacks it and it breaks. As you look, there's kind of like this, see that waxy
Yeah, you're
cube
right.
in the
Yeah.
middle? Yeah, what is that?
I was definitely seeing that too.
It would be tough to have all that stuff in the hand, so to speak, and having it slam down and like perfectly spill out. So I could definitely imagine you put something there ahead of time, you got a plate of it perfectly spilling out, and then smush the dummy into it and having it combined. It's so intense. So anyways, I watched that shot. Surely there's gotta be something else in this film worth talking about. Nope. I watched every single kill. I mean, there's a cool kill for Jason at the end, but there's like 0 VFX in it. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's it.
Have you seen Smile?
I've not seen Smile. Wait, what?
It's a really solid
Dude,
like CG fire
what?
creature.
That fire looks so good.
Yeah, I actually thought it was like they filmed like a real person on fire, like Compton, like a CG character. But no, it's 100% CG character, 100% CG fire. The background is real, and that's probably why it looks so good, was because the compositing artists and the effects people get to look at real fire in the exact same shot. They see how fast it moves, they see the scale of the curls and the licks and the flames.
I was about to say, I was like, that's some of the best like CG fire I've ever seen because they're actually blowing it out properly. All the curtains in the left half of the shot and the ground, that's all real fire. But the character there on the right, obviously a CG character, and the fire coming off that character is also CG.
Yep, having having that real fire to match the motion to, and the scale to, and the exposure and color to, goes so far to making this look good.
We're gonna get in the weeds with this clip here, so if you wanna see the extended version of this episode, sorry, extended, that's an insult. The full version, the complete version of this episode is available right now on corridordigital.com.
So this movie isn't exactly a Halloween-themed movie, but there are a lot of really cool monsters in this one, and I wanted to take a look at it because this is actually a pretty low-budget movie, and I'm super impressed with what they were able to pull off.
Oh my God, we're gonna die.
If you were to guess the budget of this movie, what would you say it is?
So I'm gonna say 40.
I would say it's like a $15 to $20 million film based on what I've seen, but I don't know how much CGI there is.
This was a legitimate big budget movie, but they only made it for like 30 million.
Do they have like any practical monsters in this, or is it mostly CGI? I'm kind of getting the feeling that like maybe that's the strength behind it. We're doing this with CGI. Like these are CGI monsters. We're gonna make them look really good. Don't worry about doing all these practical prosthetic things. You know, like they're committing.
That was more or less their approach. They quickly realized early on in the process of making this movie, it's like, all right, we're just gonna have to rely on all these monsters being CG and simulated straight from the start. Because it was a smaller budget movie, every shot had to be very deliberate. They had to have a lot of intent with everything they were doing and making sure that they were doing it correctly, because they couldn't just be like, oh, we'll fix it later. It was like, no, we have to do it correctly now. Also, this movie was nominated for an Oscar for Best VFX.
Really?
Yeah. I love this. So they actually got a giant inflatable crab that they brought out to set so that the camera guy could know exactly how far up to move the camera. By actually having something real that they could look at, they were like, okay, so they get their marks for how much to move the camera or how far to move the thing around.
Can we just Google and see if this is an off-the-shelf crab?
No, I know about this crab. They got an American company to actually design this crab from scratch, and apparently it was cheap enough, they ended up just getting 2.
Okay, well, because I just look at it and like, obviously it doesn't resemble the crab in the movie. So I'm thinking like, are there just like parade tier inflatables that you can just get?
They were able to just get this. Apparently that thing cost like $700.
That is,
And it was custom made.
that is less than I thought it would be.
So obviously they put a lot of work into designing the creature, a lot of art direction, a lot of just making sure that the creatures themselves were just really highly detailed, really articulate and stuff like that. But for all the set shooting stuff, they actually did a lot of this stuff practically, like real sand that they were throwing out of a cannon.
Well, I see why this was nominated for an Oscar. That's for dang sure. It's like, it seems like they're kind of doing everything the correct way. Accounting for lighting, accounting for destruction, like all the physics pulling on people.
Can't believe they did it for $30 million. With this and like Godzilla -1, it makes you wonder what happens when Netflix spends $200 million on something.
All right, I got a clip for you guys.
You gotta put your beard back on, yeah.
All right, everyone listening?
Man, I'm getting a little tired here and a little empty.
Empty. So yeah, Sleepy Hollow, arguably the end of Tim Burton's incredible streak of great movies.
And then he immediately did Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes.
then he did, yeah, see? So anyways, this movie's sick and it's cool and there's only one thing to talk about. As we can see, there's something horribly wrong with this antagonist.
Because he's missing a head.
I'm assuming this is just a lot of paint outs.
I would assume that as well. And anytime you see the front, probably just painting in and tracking in like a CG collar.
You are 100% right. There's nothing else to talk about.
So they're not only painting out the head, they're tracking in the entire collar of the jacket, inside and outside. I would have expected the outside of the collar just to be part of that, but they're replacing all of that. Are they just manually tracking that?
I bet that's what they're doing. Because at a certain point, if you have to go in by hand anyways, frame by frame, just double check everything.
They're doing it for an entire movie, which is so nice, and it holds up really well, even though this is from '99. Hollywood has shifted away from these types of effects recently. They're painting out the head, but now what they do is they pan out the whole body and keep the head.
Oh! I wasn't expecting a full like getting chopped in half moment in this movie.
It's nice when you do those moments in like the ultra wide.
Yeah.
I feel like they have so much more impact.
It looked like the two halves of him were practical elements. So they had him like spin and fall down and then spin and fall down again the other direction.
Oh yeah.
And then you just paint out the bottom half or the top half respectively.
It's a classic effect.
Also, I know it's 1999, but the blood, let's take a look at that again real quick.
That's some particle ass blood.
That's definitely some
We're talking about
particulate.
2,000 particles. How many particles would you like, sir? Well, my computer can do up to 2,000. Perfect. Max it out.
I feel like 99 was like the point where like CGI was still very expensive and very hard to do, but had been around for like a solid 6, 7, 8 years. So the people who were good at it were really good at it, and it'd always be like a very special shot.
Yeah.
And so you get some shots like the bullet time scene from The Matrix where it's like, holy crap. Now it's like you have 2,000 CGI shots in a movie and it's whatever.
At least.
But back then, right at the end of 99, like the golden era for like the special CGI shots. Let's do intro. Yeah, here, I'll give you an intro.
You don't want to use the intro with my mask on?
Here, ready? Sorry, Ren. I don't like being violent like that. But
You gotta be good though. It's like loud and scary.
So outro. Well, guys.
You did slightly scare me.